Live from Las Vegas, you're listening to Utah's best coverage of Big 12 Media Day on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson, Patrick Kinihan, all broadcasting live from Allegiant Stadium down here in Las Vegas. Day 2, Big 12 Media Days. Expected to hear from BYU's contingent a little bit later on. We just got news, Ben. Hopefully we're going to hear or talk to some Baylor players and coaches and possibly Arizona, although PK might chase them off.
Nah, I welcome them with open arms. Believe me, they need all the help they can get.
You think Arizona State's going to get them this year?
No.
No?
No, I don't think they're ready. I mean, you got to take fandom out of it, right? You got to look at it as objectively as you can. I don't think that the programs are on equal footing right now.
No, not at the
Which is just crazy because 4 years ago they beat them 70-7. How quick things can change.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, hire the right coach. Hire the right coaches that aren't going to leave a wake of devastation.
That'll help.
And maybe hire a better athletic director.
That'll help. I had a nice conversation with the athletic director at ASU yesterday. Gave me his card, said anything you need, buddy.
Really?
We hugged. No, we didn't hug.
You didn't hug?
But listening to him talk, that he was talking about that. You were, he was talking about the team and just what it takes to build and momentum. And you notice when we had Dillingham on yesterday, you were here.
Yeah,
right?
I was here.
Yeah. What was he talking about? He was talking about concepts. He wasn't talking about, man, I think we got the deepest defensive line since I've been here. Like Kyle was saying.
Yeah, right.
Or our tight end room is loaded. He's not saying that. He's talking about we got toughness and building a culture and do you want to be here? And sure, it's hot, but so what? Revel in it. You know what I mean? He wasn't saying like, man, we got some great all-conference players coming back.
Yeah, we're there. No.
So, but yeah, it's the same thing with Dion. Dion is a little more of the sizzle. I'd rather have a little more of the honesty and just saying, hey, this is going to take a monumental effort here. We're picked 16th because we just had the 3 worst seasons in the 80-year history of our football program, which is a fact, right? I'd rather hear truth than a bunch of sizzle that isn't there and it's fake. And when the sizzle goes away, what do you got? It takes a while to build a program. It takes the slow little effort after little effort, which is what the Utes did to get where they were and where they are.
Well, Dion is expected to be at the podium at 11 o'clock Mountain Time, so maybe we'll try and carry as much of that as we can. I'm actually curious to see what the sizzle is all about.
Oh, I think right now the only sizzle that tops it in this town as we speak is LeBron James.
Okay, with the national team?
Yeah. Kawhi Leonard bowed out of the Olympic team.
Surprise, surprise. That was the most shocking news of the morning. I know, Ben, you were woke up to that news and couldn't believe it.
My mic working?
I can hear you.
Kind of.
Yeah, where are you?
I think I'm over here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can always hear
There
you.
you go.
You're
Sorry.
good. You're good.
My other input was not working. He's going to practice a couple of times, and his knee's going to flare up, and he's not going to play well. And that's Kyrie's thing. That's always been Kawhi's thing. And it's unfortunate, but they'll be fine. I don't think anyone expected him to make it through this whole time.
Did you go Kyrie on purpose, or was that a Freudian?
That was Freudian.
They may replace him with Kyrie.
Could be Kyrie. Sounds like it might be Derek White from the Celtics. More defense. So they probably have scoring.
Yeah, I want more scoring. That's like money.
Yeah, nobody on those teams wants to play any defense.
I want more money. I want more scoring. Scoring. Hey, they should do a Christian Laettner thing and throw in Cooper Flag.
Since he's dominating anyway. Yeah, right. Ben, good to hear from you.
Or Caitlin Clark.
Or Caitlin. Absolutely. Be like the 4th best player on the team day 1. No? Ben, your takeaways from day one at Big 12 Media Day now as we enter day two.
It will change today because Arizona and Colorado are here, but a lack of stars so far in the Big 12. And Arizona might have as many as 3 first-round picks next year. We know Colorado might have 2, Travis Hunter and certainly Shedeur Sanders. So that's what I'm curious. That was something that I felt like I had gotten used to at previous media days. USC was always bringing first-round wide receivers. There was always at least a couple of quarterbacks that were talked about in the first round. And I'm excited to see that. That is a part of your branding. Branding really matters in college football when it comes to conference identity, and having star players is a huge deal. And we will see if that materializes here in day 2 at Big 12 Media Day.
You know who just might be the best defensive player in this conference? Lander Barton.
Oh, I could see that.
He's not going to get the run. He's not here. He didn't play half the season last year. Still just a junior. But I'm expecting him to be a monster. Absolute monster.
Well, Utah's defense should be the best defense in the league. Would you? I mean, maybe Iowa State? I mean, it wouldn't be a shock that the best defensive player in the league would be on Utah's roster, right?
They at least need that playmaker to step up the way Cole Bishop was that guy last year and stepped up. It was just kind of inevitable that he was going to become the guy, and credit Cole because he did. He found a way to become that guy and ended up getting drafted as a result. Yeah, I think Lander Barton probably is next in line.
And he's not even first-team all-conference preseason and all that, because I don't know that the voters in the other
they don't know.
League, they don't know about.
He only played half a year.
Right, because I think it was the foot injury against SC.
But Kyle Whittingham was praising the defensive ends at the University of Utah, and that's consistently been a strength for the Utes. So if Logan Fano can step up and be that guy, that also could be an identifier.
And he's coming back, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they basically have, from the bulk of the conference season, they have 2 potential NFL guys joining the program. I mean, they're in the program, but I'm joining the lineup because they got hurt. And then they'll be back. And if both of those dudes are in the NFL, Fano was his freshman last year.
Yep.
So he'll need to go another year with the rules. You got to be out 3 years. Barton, if he so chooses, don't know what's going to happen. But if he so chooses, he could leave this year. And my guess is when he submits his grade prospects at the end of the season, it'll come back very strong. When you're looking at 6'4", 240 or whatever it is that he's up to now, yeah, it's going to scream NFL. Plus, he's got the bloodlines with the brothers, and even more than that, for that matter. But Cody still, I think he's with the Broncos. This is going to be his 5th year?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it'll be
at
his
least
3rd team. And I think he was he a 3rd-round pick?
For the Seahawks,
yep.
Right?
Yeah, maybe 4th round, but I think 3rd. And therefore, you'll have that going on. So I think that Barton has an opportunity to exceed what his brother did.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. And Barton was a good player at Utah, but was never the best defensive player on the team, I would say. Maybe he was. We can go back and look at it.
I don't think he was. He got
think,
himself better and better each season.
Right, but Lander will be that.
Oh,
or he should be that.
He was anointed from day one. If you're starting at a program like Utah as a freshman,
on the road at Florida.
yeah. You're probably an NFL guy.
Well, and honestly, at linebacker, you should suck up every tackle because you should never be blocked. If the defensive line is truly as good as Witt was selling yesterday, and I have no doubt that it is, well, then the linebacker is totally set up to dominate. So that wouldn't surprise me at all.
Well, what's shocking to me is that defensive line loses guys to the NFL just about every year, but the collective talent never seems to drop. How is that?
Because
don't you have to rebuild sometime?
But D linemen want to play at Utah because
I know,
of the
but
way
it's
that
amazing.
They play. I mean, defensive backs want to play at Utah because of the way that they play.
Right. Now, they got the COVID thing. They would have gotten exposed a little bit because all those guys the year before went to the NFL, but we didn't really have a season, so that was like 5 exhibition games. So I can see how they reloaded so quickly, and they get Clark Phillips to come because he knew that the guys were taking off. But the defensive line, it just doesn't seem like it misses a beat. I marvel at that.
You can recruit those players to Utah.
I get it. I understand how they do it, but the fact that they're able to do it is still just so crazy to me that it happens year after year after year. And it's like, oh, so Jonah Ellis is gone. No big deal.
Yeah.
And he's a draft pick. So what? And this next year, they'll probably have Tafuna, draft pick, maybe O'Toole. So what?
Yeah.
It's like year after year after year.
Yeah, and you've got Van Fillinger this year, and if he doesn't turn out what you need him to be, you move on. I mean, with all due respect, and generally they do.
Right.
There have been very few disappointments at that position group for the University of Utah. And, yeah, if they don't live up to the hype, there's someone behind them ready to take that spot. It just doesn't stop.
Tanavaso, the latest guy coming in. Some positions, they get recruited, and, do you see who committed today? It just doesn't even seem like we do that with Utah. Do you see who committed today? It's like, some wide receiver who's going to be, he's transferring in. He's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver, and he gets 250 yards. And then next year, we got this guy coming in, and he gets 350 yards. And Utah gets a commitment from a future NFL defensive lineman, and nobody bats an eyelash. Like, whoop-de-doo. And it's funny the way, to me, it's just how it plays out. And I guess some positions are more glamorous than others. But, it's cliche, but clearly this thing is won in the trenches. I totally believe that. It doesn't matter how good you got to have the skill players. There's no doubt about that. But you've got to have the horses up front.
All right, we're going to step aside and take a quick break. We're expected, hopefully, in the next 5 minutes or so, to be joined by Houston head coach Willie Fritz. Stay tuned. Jake and Ben live from Big 12 Media Day, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
The Utes and Cougars are now back in the same conference, and we're counting you down to the start of the 2024 season. This is Big 12 Media Day coverage, live from Las Vegas on 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Jake, Scott, Ben Anderson. We are live from Big 12 Media Day. Hanging out at Allegiant Stadium here in lovely Las Vegas, Nevada, on about the 30-yard line. Patrick Kinihan with us as well. We're hoping to be talking to Houston's head coach, Willie Fritz, coming up here momentarily. Tom Holmoe is also making the rounds. We'll hope to talk to the BYU athletic director as well as things get underway at the podium with Colorado coming up in about half an hour. So that's kind of what's on tap in the near future. The BYU contingent of players, Coach Satake expected to be out early this afternoon. Not unlike what happened yesterday, PK, with the Utes.
Yeah, they got the format, and I spoke to multiple athletic directors yesterday from the holdover conferences, guys that I know. And they expect to make improvements next year to get this thing a little sharper because clearly it could be run a little bit better. It's not bad, but it could be better. And I think that they'll have that influence, especially be able to tell folks from the conference what this side of the conference needs in this time zone, like us.
Well, I just get the feel they're going for a different vibe, more that Super Bowl vibe where It's just a big – everybody's in one place, and it's just run differently. That's all.
But it'll be more uniformed. It'll be conformed next year. You mark my words, good friend.
Well, I mean that's the kind of influence that you have, Patrick.
I have zero influence.
That's what you lobby for it, and it gets done.
Yeah, but you're still employed here, though.
Oh
man!
Hey!
Wow!
Hey, that was
Coming
super.
in hot.
That was super aggressive.
No, Jake Scott is dependable as anybody I've ever worked with, man. You tell him to be there, and you never have to worry about it. He will be there and do a superb job. His work ethic is as good as anybody's that ever been around.
I walked in this morning.
And I knew you
Sat
would.
down, made it happen.
I knew you would.
Making the donuts, as my guy Scotty G would say.
There was no doubt in my mind that you would make it happen because you always do make it happen.
So hopefully we have some interviews coming up. Love to talk to Tom Holmoe down here making the rounds, PK. We don't, unless you go to the Super Secret Media Summit, we don't get that many opportunities to talk to Tom. So it'd be interesting to get his thoughts on what's going on in the football program specifically.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, this guy, he has had to drag BYU through to this point. I mean, if he wanted to retire, I don't think they'd let him. I think they'd bar the door. I don't think he could walk out.
Do we have more questions about BYU than we have answers?
Oh, I think that's fair to say. Sure.
Not in basketball.
As a program or
university?
I think this year
specifically this year's
as
team.
a team, yeah.
Yeah, I do. There are more questions. They've got a lot to prove in the new league. There's
if
no
you
doubt.
have a quarterback question, you've got the most important question.
Yeah, maybe that's the only question that matters.
I mean, it's the most important that matters. But there's questions every which way, and they've got to get more pressure on the QB. I think as a collection of linebackers, they'll be better than they were last year. They get a couple guys back from injury. Ben Bywater, extremely high on Kelly coming down from Weber at linebacker. They returned Batty up front. They like what they got there. They feel that the offensive line is going to be better, but it's all talk right now. And you got to see.
And all those guys have to play. I mean, all those guys missed games and had injuries, and it feels like a theme of the day talking about injuries and if they stay healthy and all that. But it makes a big difference.
It does, and nobody cares about it, as Whittingham will tell you. Games go on.
Are you going to have Bywater again?
I don't know.
He was good.
Jake Hatch handles that. And then
you're not involved at all?
Well, we give him he talks to him, and then Nate Dowdle handles all that. So I guess so. Yeah.
He was good last year. That's all.
Yeah, I was at the Kansas game when he went down, and it didn't look good, and it wasn't good. And he was a pro prospect, so now he needs to have a little reclamation this year to go about his business, just like a couple guys at Utah. And we will see that will happen, and hopefully he has his health, and the defense will be better. The goal is 6 wins. We've been saying it for weeks, and I think it's a legitimate possibility.
And it's easy to forget how close they were to 6 wins last year. I mean, that wasn't a far stretch. That was, a single double overtime loss to Oklahoma State before they get there. Tripping at the goal line could potentially have gotten you there. So it's not like BYU was miles away from their goal. They are close, and they should be close again this year. But as we've talked about, we're going to know a good deal about this team at worst 4 games in and maybe 3 games in with non-conference games against SMU and Wyoming on the road.
Oh, I think we're going to learn a lot from those games.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think SMU and Wyoming both should be pretty good. I was a little surprised Wyoming was picked 6th in the Mountain West in their preseason media poll, but new coach, a lot of questions, but that's not an easy place to play. And SMU should be good.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, what are they doing playing 2 non-conference road games?
I don't know. I was. If we talk to Tom, we should ask him that, because I thought to myself, whoever scheduled that, but specifically going to Laramie should be
what?
Disciplined severely.
I was wondering where you're going with that.
The discipline is having to go to Laramie.
No, but that seems crazy. I mean, to schedule 2 road games like that in your non-conference in a new league. I mean, BYU in league is playing a schedule that they've never, more difficult than anything they've ever done.
Right.
So it's interesting to saddle yourself with those 2 road games.
Agreed. But they got to find a way to win them, man. They go 3-0. That just takes the pressure off big time. I mean, what were they, 5-1 at one point last year?
5-2?
5-2.
And before things cratered.
Yeah. And Slovis goes down. But now you got the good thing is I think they got more bodies to replace dudes who go down if they go down.
Well, you were hitting on that earlier in the show. Yeah, I think depth, if there is a positive thing to sell for BYU, more depth would be a good one.
Yeah. And you got to be able to run the ball. I don't care how good of a passing team you are. You've got to be able to run the ball. They've got to have effectiveness through the ground. It doesn't matter how you get it. You can do whatever you want to do to get it, but you've got to get it. There's just no question about it. You must get it. I mean, I think they would have had it last year better with Robbins, but he was down. He was out for a good chunk.
Right.
I think that was a blow that he decided to try the NFL. I think, if he could have come back and had a solid season, it would have obviously helped his chances, but then that doesn't matter anymore. He's gone. So they've got a collection. I don't know that they've got a player as good as a healthy Robbins would have been. That remains to be seen. Maybe we can look at Martin. Maybe we can look at Ropati and a couple other guys, see what they've got there. I think they've got some receivers that are on the verge of making a name for themselves, but not that we don't know about. We know about them, but they really haven't done anything yet.
I was going to ask if you think they need to be married to L.J. Martin going into the season, because he looked like the heir apparent last year, had some glimpses certainly, but did not establish himself as the guy.
He did not, no.
So do you need to go into the season with the expectation that he steps up, or is that, running back is not quarterback, open job, or, it's not that type of competition necessarily, because you're going to have a committee anyways, but is that the guy who needs to be the front runner coming out of the gate?
If he could do that, it would be great. It would be something that could make the offense feel a lot more at ease, speaking of the coaches, if they knew, hey, we got a guy who's got a good chance to get close to 100 yards today. I'm not at that point, but I see where you're going, and hopefully for them they get to that point. And then obviously you got to have other guys who spell him. That's the way the game is played. I think they've got other guys that are spellable, which doesn't make any sense, but you follow me.
How do you spell that?
Right, guys that can come in.
Yeah.
The second and third and fourth guys can come in and be decent. But you always want that workhorse that you can give him the ball and you're going to be okay. So I'm curious to see if Martin can take it. He'll have every opportunity, and he's got the frame, and now he's got a little bit of experience, and so it's his to take. Will he take it? I don't know yet.
And will the O-line be better?
I think it will.
Because that was hugely impactful last year. On the run game, on the pass game, all of it.
100%. Yes. But talking to a couple of linemen, they feel like it's going to happen. They're an irritated group. It takes about 2 questions for them to get bent out of shape when you interview them. And I think that they understand all that, and I think they'll be ready to go.
I think we will know quickly if there are any red flags with BYU if we are talking about a quarterback aiding the run game early in camp. If it's about Retzlaff unlocking the run game, I'm not sure we've answered the questions that we had about BYU.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I'm so annoyed with that.
But I think
that whole
that's what they
storyline.
want.
Well, I don't know if that's the recipe for success.
If you have somebody who's of that caliber, why not do it? If he can do it, and if the option presents itself, I'm not necessarily talking about a designed run. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look at Caleb Williams 2 years ago. That guy was just stunningly amazing to be able to run around, either buy time or get yardage with his feet. Now, I'm certainly not comparing Retzlaff or anybody to Williams.
The number 1 pick in the draft?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, we saw the caliber of dimension it added to SC's offense.
Of course.
So if you can get that, and they didn't want that. They didn't have any depth. Now they feel like they got depth, and if it presents itself, they think that could be an effective weapon. And Whittingham, who I view as the defensive guru, has said multiple times that is so dang hard to defend.
I know, and I've heard him say that multiple times. I get it. But, I mean, are you going to tell me Curtis Brown would have had more yards if John Beck could have run it more? I mean, I just don't buy that. Can your quarterback sling it or not?
Would the offense have been better?
Yeah, I doubt it.
Oh, I disagree. Because when John Beck got healthy, he had ankle issues that whole season, and when he got healthy, it was in the Vegas Bowl against Oregon, and they blew the Ducks all the way back to Eugene.
It's not like him running the ball led to them having a run game.
No. But when you still need a run game, yes, I think that's what Ben is saying.
Who would care if John Beck ran or whatever? He was
Oregon's
John Beck?
defense. But when he was healthy and he did it, it added a dimension. But Curtis Brown was still really good. Look at us, man. We're acting like we know football, and we got a dude who's won Super Bowl sitting right across from us.
The athletic director for BYU, the one and only Tom Holmoe, with us here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Good to see you, Tom.
How's it going, boys?
Good. How are you?
I'm well. Vegas. I love Vegas, and I love Elysian Field. I've been here a couple times.
Yeah, twice.
I did the Super Bowl here last year.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and it was an incredible event. So.
Do you ever listen to some guys like us, and you're a dude who's been in football your whole life, and thinking, what are they talking about?
We're getting our technical difficulties figured out. We'll switch headphones here for a second. All right, PK, go ahead.
You heard my question. Do you ever listen to some media dudes, blowhards like me, and thinking, what's that idiot talking about? Based on your knowledge?
No. I've been in this game for so long. I think that the media, like I'm an old wise man now, seasoned in this game. When I was younger, I would get offended at things that people would say, but it's part of the game. Like if you look at this right here, it's media day, and there's hundreds of people out here. It's part of our game, and so you're trying to find out information.
Right.
Sometimes more than we do. But I'd never let you know that. Never let the listeners know that. But there's so many times that we try to be coy because we know, but we're not going to say anything. And so you got to guess, or you got to extrapolate. So it doesn't bother me anymore. It used to.
Yeah, that's probably a fair assessment. You mature.
So back-to-back road games, SMU and Wyoming. You a glutton for punishment, or how did that happen?
It just happens. The explanation would be when we were in Independence, and you had to get rid of 9 games all of a sudden,
right? Because
you got to put in the block of conference games. It was a little tricky to get rid of them or set them up in future dates. So we did that right from the start. We got rid of a bunch, and then we slotted a bunch. And then there were some holes. So when you look at those holes, you're basically looking at 2024, 2 years ago, and it's hard to slot and pick teams.
Right.
So the alternatives to what we're doing this year were worse. And I don't know if people understand this, but I could go to Dave Brown, who is the scheduling guru in the country for college football at Gridiron, and I could say, Dave, we need a game in 2031 on September 23rd. If that's a Saturday. And he could tell me which teams are available for home and which teams are available for the road right now. I could look on my phone. I have a software. I have the app. But you'd be surprised. For 2031, you're talking about on a given Saturday, it would be 3 or 4 teams. And it's not easy for those games. So now you're talking about 3 or 4 games. But then the week before, the week after, you might have to switch to play this team and go home or go road. And so even though we added SMU and Wyoming later, Wyoming was in the mix because we already played them at home. We had to come a return game. We had to fit them in somewhere.
Right.
And that was the best fit. Trust me, that was the best fit.
I can
That's
see
tough.
That.
I mean, those are 2 tough games for non-conference,
Very
for sure,
much
and
so.
road games. Yeah.
I can see where you're going with that. So much pressures on these guys, these coaches. They feel it, particularly at BYU. I can remember years ago, your wife told me, yeah, I used to be able to walk in the Bay Area with Tom anywhere, and now if we go out, I got to just stand there because everybody's going to come up and bug them, right? So you're so more popular in Provo, and you're a guy who won Super Bowls, coached at all these different organizations. I think you coached everywhere at the 2 Pac-12 levels and with the Niners and all that. And so you should have been known, but you kind of got lost. You can't get lost in Provo because there's so much pressure. As an athletic director, as these coaches, they just bear so much of the burden on them. What can you do to help them to not worry about all that other stuff and focus at the task at hand? Because obviously this is an extremely important season.
It's a great thought, PK, because that's really a lot of my job. And we have 19 head coaches at BYU, and they don't all feel the pressure that the head football coach at BYU feels, but they do feel pressure. And they're not in the media like they are. But you said it, our football coach, and then secondly it would be our basketball coach. But our football coach has a large burden on his shoulders. And part of my responsibility is to make sure that we have a good, positive relationship to where I usually go down to his office every day and just poke my head in there. And with Kalani, as you know, I'll usually go in there and like give him a hug, put my arms around him. Good, bad, indifferent. Because I think the more stable you can be with a relationship, the more you can deal with the ups and downs. There's going to be ups and downs usually every week. Something happens almost every day with the BYU football team. There's 123 guys and 11 coaches and an incredible staff, fans, alums, all those arrows coming in on Kalani, and we deal with it. The two of us are not the only ones that deal with it.
Right.
There's a big staff of people that are supposed to deal with that. You're talking about medical issues and training issues and strength and conditioning issues. And all of those are factors that through the years, that's why it's so important to have stability in a program so that you can just put your arms around it and deal with them every day. Like, that's it. I'm going to come to work. I love my job because every day is a new day. There's no 2 days are the same. But I'm going to go into Kalani's office at least once a week with a pretty significant problem. And I trust him. And I know that the two of us can work things out, but you're going to have problems.
What are your expectations for the football team this year?
I like our team. I like how they responded last year to, not having a lot of great depth, having a couple injuries early in the season that put us kind of behind the 8 ball. Started out with a couple wins and then had to deal with the disappointment of finishing slow. And coming to those last 2 games, I learned a lot about this team, is that we had Oklahoma State and Oklahoma, who are 2 of the better teams in the league. And I think I felt we could have won both of those games. So for them to hang in there and keep that culture strong at that time in a difficult time, and then look at the offseason, look at the changes that Kalani made with coaches throughout the program and in personnel, key additions, a second year, I feel really good about where we can go.
This is a general big picture question, Tom, that doesn't relate to any individual sport. An administrator at BYU a long time ago, and I can say a long time ago because I've been around a long time, told me we have to be very careful at BYU and how many people we bring in that aren't of our faith. He said it's important that we do that in order to field successful programs, but they have to find a way to assimilate to what we're about, because if they don't, there tends to be problems. So you look at, like, basketball, for instance. Kevin Young is bringing in a wide spread of people that I don't think we've ever seen in the basketball program, at least in the 30 years that I've lived in this market. I think it's great. But how do you deal with that to make sure these individuals, because once they come, whether it's coach, player, whoever it might be, you have a personal responsibility to make sure that they have a good experience. And they have to be able to understand what Provo and BYU are about. You see where I'm going with that?
Thanks for reminding me about that, Patrick. I appreciate it. Yeah, no question about it. I feel that we call it the BYU fit. And I can give you an anecdote, is we deal with it mainly with recruiting.
Right.
So when we hit the road for student athletes, and I used to recruit when I was an assistant coach, and you go to a high school in Phoenix, Arizona, and you see a kid that you really like, you can't just go, I'll take that kid. You have to go meet that kid at BYU. You have to meet him, you have to understand him, and see, is it a good fit, not just for us, but is it a good fit for him or her? Because when you come together, you're gonna have a relationship that's gonna last for 4 or 5 years, and you want it to be a great one. If we bring someone at BYU, have an honor code. If we bring someone in that we know likes to smoke marijuana, it's not going to be a good experience for them at BYU. Something's going to happen along the line, and it's not going to work out. That's not right. You want kids that are going to come in and feel like they have a great location. They're around the right people that fit their personality. We deal with that all the time. We talk about that all the time. We do that with our employees. So whenever there's an open job, I personally, as the athletic director, call all the applicants that are not members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I have a discussion with them about hey, here's what you're getting into. This is what it's all about. We don't try to trick them or pull the wolves over. It would be crazy for us and them. It's not fair. And I will say, I had a conversation with a potential coach for one of our teams a couple weeks ago. That was one of these. And after the discussion, he said, you know what? I really appreciate the fact that you took the time to tell me about that. And it's interesting. But you know what? I'm going to pass. And I said, hey, gosh, thank you so much. I mean, you just did yourself and us a big favor.
Yeah, for sure.
And I wish you the best. It was a good candidate. I wish you the best of luck going forward because you got character. I really appreciate the fact that you'd say that instead of taking a chance with his career and ours.
Yeah.
So, you know, and Patrick, through the years, it doesn't always work. It doesn't always mesh as well as you'd like it to mesh. But I think we do everything we can to make it mesh. And how's that any different from, you know, when your mom and when you brought your wife home or your fiance or girlfriend, they want to know, is she going to be all right for you? And are you going to be all right for her? That's the same thing.
And the thing that I like that I've seen is, I don't want to use the word leniency, but more understanding. Like you take a kid like Jamal Williams who had issues, so to speak, but yet he got through it and seemed to be better for it, and BYU is better for it.
Absolutely. I think that's a great example because, I mean, I love Jamal because during his time here, we had discussions about things that were difficult, but he also brought some of my greatest joy.
No doubt.
And to this day, he's a dear friend of mine. And how do you beat that?
Right.
And so, like, why would we miss out? Why would we want to miss out on some of the greatest relationships in our lives because of a factor? Now, if we know going in that we have to make that adjudicate. We have to adjudicate that.
Yeah.
And sometimes we miss it, and sometimes we, hopefully more than not, we get it right. But Patrick, one of the things with athletics, and I think it would extend to coaches, is that some of the best players and coaches at BYU have been members that are not of our faith. And we wouldn't be who we are today without them.
Right.
And if you forget that, you're in trouble.
What have you learned about this league now that we're a year in? And take that wherever you want to go.
I love it. That's what I've learned about it. I love the camaraderie. I love the partnerships. I love the people. I love the energy. I love the fan bases. It's a totally different situation for me from other conferences. I don't know if it's because they feel like if you go to like Gonzaga, they got a fan base that's out of this world. If I go back to the Mountain West Conference, San Diego State and BYU had a rivalry, or University of Hawaii, remember those games. But in the Big 12, every single game, their fan base is ready to go. And because their fan base it just brings this energy and this fire and the meaning of each game. I love that part of the Big 12 and the competition. Just every time you play someone in the Big 12, home or road, any sport, it could be a toss-up.
Turns out it's a pretty special basketball league. I mean, the run last year had to be pretty cool.
Yeah, that was cool. It was sweet. It was unexpected, and I think sometimes those are the best ones because when you have worked to a point, expectations get super high. BYU's met expectations through the years for decades and decades, long before I got here. But sometimes it's hard to not meet expectations. So I'm in 3 or 4 conversations already. The first question is expectation. That's just part of the game. Yeah. And in the Big 12, the expectations are high, and I love that.
We got BYU and Utah back as a conference game. I don't know if you heard what Cam Rising said. If you haven't, I'll let you go hear it. It was pretty outrageous if you ask me, but nobody asked me. I'm wondering, why isn't it on the traditional rivalry weekend? Why a couple weeks early?
Yeah, the Big 12 didn't want that. It didn't have anything to do with BYU Utah.
Right.
And they felt like in the Big 12, there's a lot of rivalries, and so they want to highlight the rivalries throughout the year. Because if you put them all in the same weekend, you're going to get time zones and overlaps that might not be in the best interest of the conference. So instead of having an expectation that there's rivalry week and they're all in the same week, and it kind of spreads it out. I actually like it that way. We'll see. I'll see how it goes for this year and next year and how into the future. But I think it's a smart idea.
Well, Tom, thank you for a few minutes. We really appreciate it. It's great to see you.
Great. Good to be here, guys.
Have a great day.
Have a good one.
All right. We'll have more coming up next. Stay tuned. 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
This is the KSL Sports Zone's coverage of Big 12 Media Day with complete coverage of the Utes and the Cougars. Now, back in the same conference. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
We just had Tom Holmoe right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. And right now, Hans Olsen and Tom are engaged in a deep conversation about who knows what. We'll find out here in a little bit. Jake is back.
Can you hear me now? All right. Any conversation with Hans is going to be a deep conversation. This segment brought to you by Peach Doors and Windows. Amazing home transformations begin with Peach Doors and Windows, where 5-star reviews are the norm. Call them today for your free in-home estimate, 801-566-1255. It's also a Wednesday, meaning it's a Win Tickets Wednesday. Let's go ahead and get rid of those or give away those tickets right now. Post Malone, call 801-575-ZONE, 801-575-ZONE. Caller number 12 right now. You're going to go see Post Malone at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater September the 8th. And if you don't win this time, keep listening. We'll continue to give away tickets throughout the day. PK, your takeaways from our conversation with Tom.
I love talking to Tom. You know, we're peers in that regard. Both of us got here about the same time. The pressure on these dudes, Kalani and his staff's enormous. What's ahead, very competitive schedule. I think what you had with the situation with BYU and the non-conference road games is when he first went into independence, he said, you've got to give me a year or two to flush this thing out. And he did. So the first year, it was kind of a garbage schedule, but they just had to put it together. So I think you got to give them a year or two, maybe another year, or maybe this is the last year because they've had a couple years leading into the conference, so it's sort of their third year of straightening out the schedule. It's not ideal to play back-to-back road or two road non-conference games.
I had to lead with that because it doesn't make any sense. And it certainly does after he explained it. And no doubt moving into the league and canceling all of those games was challenging. I wonder if he misses scheduling the whole schedule.
I wouldn't. That had to be a pain in the you-know-what.
Trying to find a game in November?
Yeah.
Let alone a home game in November?
And conference games just matter more.
It's better. It's better. It's great that BYU's in a league. I thought independence was – I get it that it was necessary. Kind of get it that it was necessary.
Well, financially
but
it had to
I
be
mean,
done.
it was wandering through the desert as far as
they're out now.
Yeah,
they've reached the promised land.
Because
Las Vegas, Nevada.
Because making even like and PK, you and I talked about this.
No,
a
they're
lot.
still in the desert.
Making those random, even big name games interesting was difficult because it didn't matter. I mean, you know, that win over Michigan State in East Lansing. I mean,
I was there for that
felt
one.
like a big win, right? But it didn't really.
Well, you made a point I thought was excellent several years back. You said that with BYU, we care about this team, their opponents that week, and then we never pay attention to them again, unless they were Utah State and Utah.
Yep.
And maybe Boise. Boise was a nice
Boise,
series.
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And that worked out.
But other than that, Middle Tennessee, blah, 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 blah.
You forget about it.
You won't. It's like an exam, and then when it's over, you passed it, and then you throw the notes away. I don't have to worry about that anthropology elective class that I had to take to get my degree, and that was sort of what their schedule was. And now, it just matters so much. The first game, Oklahoma State and Utah, is a massive game. Well, it's going to impact BYU. It's a big game for everybody.
Right.
And going forward here, that's what makes it so cool. And they deserve to be in a conference. And whether it was worth the wait is debatable. But now that you're here, that's all that matters.
Right.
And they've got a shot in all these sports to do really well in the league and make a name for themselves. Of course, football's the biggie. We all know that. So I don't know to what level they'll make a shot this year, but if they can find a way to, if they won 5 conference games, I think you'd have to consider it a success. And if you win 5 non-conference games or independent games, so what?
Right.
But like Iowa State goes 7-6, but they went 6-3 in conference last year. That's a big deal. That matters. And now BYU has that opportunity.
And there's carryover. There's just carryover to what happens next year. Like you said, I mean, you didn't even flush every season. You flushed every game.
Right,
so
exactly.
It just didn't matter
Literally
at all.
every game, yeah.
That's just a difficult – I mean, your conference is a measuring stick.
No
you
question,
belong to a
yeah.
conference. The conference measures up against other conferences, but it's how you measure up against those teams year in and year out. You can see the minutia and how it moves. And when you don't have that ability, it sets you – you're a man without a country, and that's what BYU has been. And I guess in that sense, and maybe we shouldn't have been, were we surprised that BYU only won 5 games last year?
No.
Should that have been a surprise compared to what they were coming from and how difficult it is to play in a P5 conference?
Utah took fourth year to get a winning record in conference in the Pac-12. They didn't get it to their 4th season. Let's not lose sight of that fact.
2 words.
Bowl eligible, yeah. I mean, it's such a big deal. At that point, he could have yelled 2 words in anything. Like, he should have said 2 words and just screamed jock itch. And in the locker room, they went, ah, ah! You know what I mean?
Are they screaming because of the jock itch, or are they screaming because they were excited?
Well, combo.
Okay. Yeah.
The burning sensation.
But that was the season.
You led me into that.
That was the season that they had the winning record. Was that year when they turned around. That was when they were 500, not 500 in the league. But that was after a win against UCLA, right?
I think it was SC.
Was it SC?
SC at Rice Eccles.
Was it?
Yeah, if I remember. Of course, DJ would know that off the top of his head.
Obviously.
But that's what I think it is. I think I recall him saying it. But the great thing about it, guys, is they've got a chance to go up to Rice Eccles and kick Utah's ass. Am I right?
They have that opportunity. They do. True.
Cam Rising said it, and we've been playing it on air. Don't blame me. Don't give me that look, Hans Olsen. Elder Olsen over here all of a sudden.
It's the language.
All right. We'll have more from Big 12 Media Day coming up next. 97.5 BKSL Sports Zone.